honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that come from Alahym only? Hello?
Yeah, that's Dan.
Yeah. So let's take it to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32. This week, out of the law, we will be looking at the rock. The rock is what we will be looking at out of the law, and all the things that pertain to the rock. Hello? Hello?
Yo, this is Master.
What's happening with you, bro?
What's up?
All right, so out the law is where the rock is what we're going to be dealing with. So Deuteronomy chapter 32. I know I had mentioned that, we, instead of necessarily going down in a straight line, some things in the law we'll just snatch and grab so we don't get in a monotonous state. So that's what we're going to do, and still be dealing with the law either way. So Deuteronomy 32:1 says this: Give ear, O ye Shamahim, and I will speak, and hear, O rats, the word of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, and as the small of the rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of Yahuwah, and describe ye greatness unto our Alahym. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, our Alahym of truth, and without iniquity, and right is he. So, when we look at the word for rock, which is the same word consistently throughout the text, that word is sword. And when we spell it out, we get it. That's just a rock, but it's also meaning a mighty one, or a block of stone, or a boulder, rocky wall and all that type of stuff, or Alahym. And it's, we get the Rosh, the U, and the Sod. So when we come across these particular characters for this particular word, we end up getting clearly, when we hit the Rosh, we get the first, or the head of the body. And then when we go to this U, we get the nail, or and. Then we get the Sod, we get desire or need. So basically, when you look at the rod, look at the rock, we begin to see that this is the head in which we need, truth be told. You know what I'm saying? This is our desire. This is what that we need. This is why he say he is our rock, and his work is perfect. His work is complete. Throughout this book, it tells you to set yourself upon a rock and things of that nature. And considering the conversation that I had with a gentleman earlier, which I guess he took it the wrong way because he's so used to, a lot of people look at people's words and assume more than actually paying attention to what's being said to them. Because they looking at the situation in Libya saying, oh, we could get sold back into slavery. When are we going to unite and defend ourselves? And I'm like, well, first and foremost, the book says that we'll be overcome in the end. So I don't know what book these people are reading. Do you know what I'm saying? Because Daniel 7 tells you the Kadeshim will be overcome. Revelation 12 tells you those who keep the commandments of Alahym with the faith in Yahushua will be overcome. Revelation 13 tells you this. You know what I'm talking about? The Master told you this in Matthew chapter 24. Zechariah 14 tells you this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what book that these people are reading. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, nevertheless, if we get taken back into another slavery, that's Yah's will, and let his will be done. If it's his will for us to be set free, let his will be done. If it's his will for us to overcome these people and kill every last one of them, let his will be done. But at the end of the day, Yahuwah's will be accomplished in whatever thing he sent his word to do. And there's absolutely nothing that a single solitary man could do it on the earth. And then this man had the nerve to say we are a weak, dependent people. depended upon other people. And the one person who we should be dependent on, we utterly refuse to depend on, because we seek to depend on ourselves to deliver ourselves, when in actuality and reality, with this type of mind frame, there's absolutely no way that we could believe and trust in Yahuwah, because you trying to save yourself. It's like we got to set up our own economy, set up our own this and own that. That means you're trying to build a kingdom without the man who has to head that kingdom. Which means you don't really trust in Yah, and you really want your own world. Now I'm going to end it with this. The book says in Hebrew chapter 11 that we declare plainly that we are strangers and pilgrims on the earth and seek a country, in a city where Alahym is not ashamed to be called our Alahym, and we are not ashamed to be called his people. So our people are looking to seek up and set up a society where truly Yahuwah is not a part of, because that's not his city. He didn't establish it. You're still a stranger and a pilgrim on the earth. Because these dudes want to set up societies and cultures outside of the place of where this man say you should be desiring to go. I don't want a society in America. I don't want a society in South America. I don't want a society in Europe or Africa or Asia. I only want to be in a city where my Alahym is not ashamed to be called my Alahym, and we are not ashamed to be called his people. And if I have to die for his word, then so be it. I'm going to say this once, and I'll probably say it again in the future, but no more probably tonight. You are not going to be persecuted because you're black. You're not going to be persecuted because you're an Israelite. You're going to be persecuted because the world hates your Alahym, his word, and your Savior, whose name is Yahushua HaMashiach. And that's what these people are going to persecute you for. That's what these people are going to lock you up for. And that's what these people are going to kill you for. Do you know what I'm saying? Period. See, right now, what you're going through is just the utter despising and racism that these people hold for people of color. That has absolutely nothing to do with your service to the living Alahym. Has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's just absolutely all that is just the ignorance and stupidity and wickedness and black-heartedness of the whole world, how they feel for a certain segment of the world's population. Now, just imagine how they're going to go to feeling when people standing up for something that's condemning their behavior, and it's magnified that this small group of people are doing this versus the whole world is living like this. That's the difference. Nevertheless, he said his work is perfect. We need to see how his work is perfect. We need to see how his ways is judgment, and how he's without iniquity, and how he is right. So with that being said, John chapter 15 verse 22, and after that John chapter 16. See, a lot of people want to say, and I think 1 Corinthians chapter 4 I might want, but we'll see. See, a lot of people want to commend themselves and have the people around them commend them versus having Yahuwah commend them. Because I'm be honest with you, and I tell all these dudes until they face, I know they don't believe in Yah. I know they don't. I don't care how. And a dude, nigga, feel like because you got some fringes on, or you know you an Israelite, and that you don't eat no pork and keep some Sabbath, that your faith is on 100. And that means absolutely nothing. Because it's evidence in the things that these niggas say. Because the book tell you to wait on Yahuwah and to trust in his salvation. You know what I'm saying? And they don't trust in it. They don't trust in it at all. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to be in for a rude awakening when they find out you're not getting in. This is kind of the stuff that the master went about with the people. Because these people didn't really believe. And it was manifested that they didn't really believe. And they thought that they would have right to enter into the kingdom because of their bland, carnal service to the living Alahym. And you're not getting in off of that. Because without faith it's impossible to please him. And to just live by their faith. And our people show that they don't possess that. Verse 22. If I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But thou they have no cloak for their sin. He that hate me hate my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which none other man did, they had not had sin. But now they both have seen and hated me and my Father. Now again, how does this relate to what we just looked at in the law? Let's read that part again in Deuteronomy 32, just for clarity's sake. He said he is our rock, which means he is our head and he is our desire. He is our rock and his work is perfect. So we need to understand all his ways are judgment, and he's an Alahym of truth and without sin, without lawlessness, and just and right is he. So we need to look at and see what work did he accomplish that was perfect. Let's look at Romans chapter 8. And after that, 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 13, I would say. Because we have to look at his labor is complete, is whole. Let's pull the word for perfect in that particular passage. We look at the word for work, and we get the word poal, and that's your deed or wages of work or your acquisition or deed or thing done. But when we get to perfect, we get the word tamayim. And that word is something that is complete, it's whole, it's entire, it's sound, it's unimpaired, it's innocent, it is having integrity, and is entirely in accord with truth and fact. There are no blemishes, there are no spots. So you have to think about that. There are no blemishes, there are no spots. And we'll look at the things in the text that go along with that. But before we do that, let's look at Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Yahushua HaMashiach, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. For the Torah of the Ruach of life and Yahushua HaMashiach have made me free from the Torah of sin and death. So it says your rock, or your head, your leader of where your desire should be to, his work is complete. It's without blemish, it's without spot. There's nothing on it. So we need to turn around and we need to look at Job chapter 13 when it comes to that. And then we'll just swing back to Ephesians chapter 5, knowing what this man came to do, which was to cleanse you, to make you perfect. See, dude say, should we pass the legacy of slavery to our children? And while we seeking to free ourselves according to the flesh, we are still in bondage according to the spirit, because we are mired in iniquity. See, everybody likes to scream that verse of, you know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, and then forgetting wholeheartedly that that is sin is what he was speaking about. And I'm sorry, that's Job chapter 11 and verse 13. That's sin what he was talking about you would be freed from. Because we know that the word for truth in Hebrew is that's faithfulness, that's firmness. So your faithfulness and your firmness would be set upon that rock. Therefore, because you own that rock, and again, one of the character, the Uga lead us to the nail, which means of the sacrifice, the self-sacrifice. So the head had a desire to sacrifice himself. So we should have a desire to do the same thing and to be built upon that same rock. That means we would be servants to Alahym and not to ourselves, which is what this man came to do, because he came to serve the Ruach and not his flesh. I like this here, right? As I was explaining to this brother, right? When the Mashiach got ready to die, he could have easily went to save himself. Peter drew a sword and was ready to fight. And he told Peter to put that sword up. He said, I could easily call unto my Father and get 12 legions of Malachim. He said, but how will the scriptures be fulfilled? Because he saw it was more important for Yahuwah to stand up and fight on his behalf than for him to fight for himself. And in the eyesight of men who lack faith, that is deemed as being fearful and scary, because it's a fearful and scary thing for men to give their whole being over to Yahuwah and trust that he will judge righteously and reward them with a greater resurrection at the day appointed, because these men don't necessarily believe that this man is going to resurrect them from the dead. Therefore, they have a desire to save their own life because they fear death. The only reason why you would fear death is because you are mired in iniquity and sin. Because anybody who trusts in Yahuwah and lives an upright and just life according to the righteous obedience of faith, which is contained in the word, which testifies of Yahushua HaMashiach, has no fear of death whatsoever. None. He said he has not given us the Ruach of fear, but of power and of a sound mind. No one who is in the living Alahym and dwells in him and walks with him has any fear of death. Those who have fear of death are those who are mired in sin. So if you find yourself fearful of death, you need to check your faith. You need to examine yourself. Like he said in 2 Corinthians 13, examine yourself whether you be in the faith or not. And you examine yourself according to the word. You need to hold the word up to yourself. Do you line up with it? And if you don't line up with it, it's just as simple as making the correction needed to be in line with the word. This stuff is not difficult. We make it difficult because we want to do what we want to do. We want to be around who we want to be around. And we want to live how we want to live and expect this man to amend his word to our desires versus making our desires be in line with his word. This is why we're not receiving the power or the completeness that we seek after. Nevertheless, 11 and 13, Job. If thou prepare thy heart and stretch out thy hands towards him. Notice he said, if you prepare your heart. The number one thing is people are not preparing their heart to go serve. You're not setting your mind that this is what you want to do. See, that takes us back to what Ezra said. He prepared his heart to seek the statutes of Yahuwah, to teach them and to do them. We know to seek is to sacrifice yourself to enter into the house of the door. You have to already have it in your mind that you are willing to sacrifice for the living Alahym, that this is your desire to live for him and no longer live for yourself. This is what people's problem is. You want to still live your way. You can't live your way and live his way. You're either going to live his way or no way. You can live your way, but you're not going to get a full reward. You're not going to get the crown of life that you say that you want. Everybody say they want all these things from Yah, but then they don't want to do what he say, or they don't trust him. How's this possible? This is not possible. So if we know, then he say, stretch out thy hands. We know that Mashiach was on the stake. His hands were stretched out because he was nailed to the stake. So you need to be preparing your heart to sacrifice. He said, he that carries up his stake daily and follow him can be his disciple. He said, you cannot be his disciple if you do not take up your stake. If you are not willing to sacrifice yourself, you are not worthy of him. That's Yahushua's words, not mine. That means that is a directive and teaching of his Father, that the Father taught him, that he is teaching to us, that we need to prepare ourselves to sacrifice ourselves. We need to prepare ourselves to take up that stake and be nailed to it. Since I said that, look go to 1 Corinthians chapter 4 real quick. I'm going to be honest with you, just because I know a lot of our people saying I don't sit around and argue with them. I have a conversation with them, but once dudes get on some other, I'm not finna do that, because at the end of the day, it's 2 Corinthians chapter 4, my apologies. I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to do what you want to do, and you're going to believe what you want to believe, and I'm not finna sit here and argue with dudes and go back and forth with dudes who are intent on doing what it is that they want to do. And that's just something that comes from experience of dealing with the word. You know what I'm saying? We feel like we got to try to cajole and push people. If that person's showing you they got their mind made up and that's the direction they want to go in and that's what they want to do, then leave the people alone. I done had people get mad at me. I don't believe in Yahushua HaMashiach. Nigga, I don't care. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make the word of Alahym without effect? Does that make Alahym a lie because you don't believe? Do you feel like it's my job to make you believe? It's not. My feelings are not going to be hurt because you don't believe in this man. It's not I'm not offended. Do you know what I'm talking about? You the one rejecting your own salvation and mercy. Shoot, nigga, that's you. And if you look in this book, a lot of these prophets, they didn't care if them people, Mashiach didn't care if them people didn't believe or listen to him. He sat back and focused on the people who did believe and who were listening. And you can see that in the text. We can see that in John chapter 8. The people didn't believe on him. He started talking to the Yahudim who believed on him. He didn't care nothing about the rest of the people who were standing right there. I ain't talking to you. Because clearly my message is not for you. When the scribes and Pharisees said, who are you? He said, man, look here, I told you who I was. And you didn't believe me. He said, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. I'm not concerned with you. So I don't care what you talking about or what you doing. It's not my concern. You don't belong to me anyway. This man said, I don't pray for the world. I pray for those that are mine. So he's not concerned. People don't want to hear that, but that's the reality of it. That man ain't concerned with everybody. He's concerned with those that belong to him. He gives a long space for people to repent if they so choose to do so. But if they don't, he's not breaking his neck or just steady coming at you to get you to do it. He told his apostles, if they don't want to believe your testimony, dust your feet off on them and keep it moving. Can't make nobody believe. You don't push this stuff. That's what people make the mistake at. You don't push or force anybody to hear what you're talking about. You tell them whether they hear it or whether they don't want to hear it. And if they don't want to hear it, you move on. Period. That's you. Clearly you hate Alahym, so clearly I don't care what you do at this point. Because that's how Yahuwah felt when the people refused to obey. I don't care what you do at this point. It's no longer my concern. You have rejected me, therefore I reject you. And I will move on from you and see what your latter end is going to be. People want to hear that because they feel like that's mean. That's reality though. That man's not finna keep begging you. He's not finna keep doing it. He will warn you. He will drop that out there for you to consider. But he ain't finna beg you to do nothing. He's not going to do it. Yahushua ain't begged nobody to believe on him. At all. Not one time did he beg people, please, please. He didn't do that. You believe it? Great. You don't? Great. I ain't going to deny myself, though. This word is not coming back void. The truth is going to stand, whether you believe it or not, whether you obey it or not. Those that are mine will be saved, and those that are not will be damned. And we have to remember that and consider that, because that man ain't begging nobody. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, right? We look at verse 10. Listen to what he tell you, right? He says, always bearing about in the body the dying of the Master Yahushua, that the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yahushua's sake, that the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death work in us, but life in you. We have the same ruach of faith, according as it is written, I have believed, therefore have I spoken. We also believe, and therefore speak, knowing that he which raised up the Master Yahushua shall raise up us also by Yahushua, and shall present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant favor might through the thanksgiving of many redound to the esteem of Alahym. For which cause we faint not, but though our inward man perish, outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. See, and this is the key thing, right? He say, always bearing about in our body the death of Yahushua, that his life may be manifest. So you are bearing about his death or his sacrifice, that to be quickened by righteousness, or the righteousness of faith of his resurrection, is manifest in how you live. You now live and walk as a son, a daughter of Alahym, because you were willing to sacrifice yourself as he was willing to sacrifice himself. This is why you have to carry that state daily. You have to deny yourself every single day. When the denying of yourself every single day, you manifest the life of the living Alahym through you. Because you're suffering in the flesh to cease from sin as he did. Therefore, it's manifesting that your work is perfect. Coming back to Job chapter 11. Because there would be no blemish in it. There would be no spots in it. It would be whole. It would be complete. Living a life absent of sin is not impossible. It comes down to self-control, discipline, and desire. It has to be your desire. If it's not your desire, you're not going to do it. I don't care. And that's with anything in life, period. You are not going to be successful in anything in your life if you don't have the desire to do it. If that's not what you want to do, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're going to come up with excuses on why you can't or why you won't do it, because it's not really where your heart is at. That's why he said you got to prepare your heart and stretch your hands out to him. Your mind has to already be set that that's what you want to do. If your mind is not set on that's what you want to do, you're not going to be successful in that endeavor. Nevertheless, verse 14, if the iniquity be in thy hand, put it far away. Let not wickedness dwell in thy tabernacles. For then shalt thou lift up thy face without spot. Yea, thou shalt be steadfast and shall not fear. Do you notice that he said, and then when you put away wickedness from you and you've prepared yourself to sacrifice, that you'll have no sin and no fear. That's what you have to consider. This is what he's trying to impart unto us. Swing on around here to Ephesians chapter 5. That's all we need to sit back and consider. And that's being that this is your rock. This is what and after that, Galatians chapter 2, your desire should be to him. See, our desire is not to him. This is why our service is incomplete and halfway. And this is why our judgment is wrong. Because remember, he said his ways are judgment. So his ways are to execute the things that are right, to decide the things that are right. Ephesians chapter 5. Verse 22, I suppose. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the master. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Mashiach is the head of the body, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, if the body is subject unto Mashiach, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, even as Mashiach also loved the body and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it by the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself an esteemed synagogue, not having a spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be kadesh and without blemish. So notice that he said washing with the water of the word. Now Psalms and tells you that a young man cleanses his way by taking heed according to the word, and the master told them in the 15th chapter of John that they were clean from the word that he had spoken unto them. But now we have to look at another aspect in 2 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 1. Because we have to sit back and you know what? Before we read 2 Corinthians 7 and 1, Jeremiah chapter 4 in verse 11. I might pick it up at verse 4 and work my way all the way down. Let me see what verse 4 say. I think we got to work from verse 4 down. Jeremiah 4 and 4. Matter of fact, make it verse 3. Jeremiah 4 and 3. For thus saith Yahuwah to the men of Yehuda and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground, and sow not among thorns. Now we know from the parable of the sower was sown amongst the thorns that's the cares and the affairs of this life and the deceitfulness of riches choke off the word that it can't bring forth no fruit. And a lot of people are not bringing forth fruit because you sowing that seed amongst the thorns. You too concerned with your own life. We're going to get Galatians chapter 2 in a moment. You too concerned with your own life. You too concerned with your own desires and what you're trying to accomplish. Therefore, you can't bear the fruit, which means you can't bring forth faith, which means you can't bring forth joy, which means you can't bring forth peace or self-control or gentleness or goodness or loving kindness or long suffering or any of these things, because all these things that are of the flesh are choking off the word. Which takes us back, we got to finish Romans chapter 8, which takes us back to what's in Romans 8. That those who seek the Ruach and not the things of the flesh, because this is what Yahushua came to destroy. He that is carnal minded cannot please Alahym, because the carnal mind is not subject to the laws of Alahym. And that's our problem. Because you think your life is yours. You think this man is here to fulfill your every whim and desire and request, and that you able to do what you want to do and attain his righteousness, his kingdom, his gift of eternal life through doing your own will in his name. And that you don't have to lose nothing. But you're going to have to lose to gain Alahym. You're going to have to lose your own ways. You're going to have to use your own thoughts. You're going to have to lose your own heart. You're going to have to lose your own desires. You may have to lose friends. You may have to lose family. You may have to lose that. So you have to look at the things that we trying to keep. Are they worth losing Alahym to keep them? Because you could keep. That's why you say, what profit a man if he gain? See, everybody think that's just talking about getting money or fame. Meaning when you look at the world, he told you what? Love not the world, because the world is the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh and the pride of life. What good is it to gain all the things that society has to offer and you don't get Alahym? That ain't talking about being rich and famous. Everybody ain't gonna be rich and famous, but they gain in the world because they're gaining their desires. So they're not getting a gain from that because they're losing their soul in the process. Nevertheless, verse 4, circumcise yourselves to Yahuwah. Circumcise yourselves to Yahuwah. And take away the foreskin of your heart, ye men of Yehuda, inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. Declare in Yehuda and publish in Jerusalem, and say, blow ye the trumpet in the land, cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves, let us go into the defense cities. But we're not going to read all of this in the chapter. We're just going to go straight to verse 14. Matter of fact, we're going to read verse 10. Then said I, Yahuwah Alahym, surely thou hast greatly deceived this people in Jerusalem, saying, ye shall have shalom, whereas the sword reach unto the soul. At that time shall it be said to this people into Jerusalem, a dry wind of the high places in the wilderness towards the daughter of my people, not to fan nor to cleanse. Even a full wind from those places shall come unto me. Now also will I give sentence against them. Behold, he shall come up as clouds, and his chariot shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled. O Jerusalem, wash thy heart from wickedness, that thou may be saved. How long shall thy vain thoughts lodge within thee? This man say you need to wash your heart from wickedness that you should be saved. We looking at that completeness and that soundness of his work will be without blemish or spot. So that means your heart needs to be washed. The same thing that we just sat and read in Ephesians chapter 5, which we referenced in Psalms 119 and John chapter 15, that the word has to cleanse you inwardly. But you know what he say? How long will vain thoughts lodge within your brain? How long will worthless plans and actions? Let's look at the Hebrew word for thoughts, because you could come back to 2 Corinthians chapter 7, because we just dealt with what thoughts are. We just dealt with that. So let's see what he, if it's the same Hebrew word for vain thoughts here in Jeremiah chapter 4, for clarity's sake. When we look at the word for vain in this particular verse, it is a vain in its wickedness or sorrow or the trouble of iniquity. So he said, how long will wicked thoughts lodge within thee? And when we look at for thoughts, the word is, again, it's makashava, and that's plan or purpose or device. So how long are you going to plan to do wicked things is what he's asking. So that means your heart has to be cleansed, but your rock is perfect for the purpose of cleansing that out of your heart. You got to look at what he asked you. How long will you plan to do wickedness? How long will you purpose to do wickedness? How long are these wicked purposes and plans going to be in your heart? How long? Hold on one second. Exodus chapter 16, right? Because he asked this same question in the law. So we might as well read it. (16-29), what it is. My apologies. It's 16. Dang, what was it at? Yeah, 16-27, not 29. It's a verse a little too high. What I wanted. 16-27. Exodus 16-27. And it shall come to pass that there went out some of the people on the seventh day for to gather, and they found none. This is the people going out there looking for manna. After he gave the instruction how the manna would come. 6 days you'll gather the manna. 7th day ain't gonna be no manna out there. And on that 7th day they was out there looking for it. And he said, and Yahuwah said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws and my Torah? He said, how long will they refuse? How long are we going to continue to purpose to do wickedness and be disobedient to our Alahym and not listen when it says his work is perfect? His work is without blemish and without spot. Hamashiach was resurrected from the dead without blemish or spot. No sin or iniquity was found in him. Nevertheless, 2 Corinthians 7:1, and then Galatians chapter 2, and then John chapter 16. Because we got to look at how his ways are judgment. Because from that work a judgment was executed. Because we got to establish who the rock is and what the rock is about before we go to anything else pertaining to that rock. Because he is your rock. So he is your desire. He's your head. He's your desire. And we praise y'all. We just read that in the beginning of Ephesians 5. He say, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands. Your desire should be to your head. Because he says in 1 Corinthians 11 that the head of the woman is her husband. Well, Isaiah 54 tells you that Yahuwah is your husband. So your desire should be to your head or your husband. This is Yahushua. He's your husband. Your desire should be to him. Our desire is not to our husband. That's our problem. And in this chapter, Deuteronomy 32, he enumerates on this. And in other places, we're going to see that as well. And we're also going, y'all willing to look at the understanding of how he say he's the rock of your salvation. When you think about a rock or a cornerstone, you think about something that is solid, that is dependable, that is reliable, that is faithful. All the adjectives that describe when somebody say, that's my rock. Somebody look at it, say they look at their husband, they say, he's my rock. He's your support system. He's what you lean on for strength, because that rock is going to hold you up. He held you up by that nail or the ooh that's in that word sahar. From the rosh to the ooh to the sod. He is that thing that holds you up. See, we don't consider that. Because we want to hold ourselves up. Or we want to look to man to hold ourselves up. But he said, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, who make flesh his arm. But Baruch is the man who trusteth in Yahuwah, whose hope Yahuwah is. See, that's our problem. We don't trust in Yahuwah at all. We say we do, but we don't. You know what I'm saying? Because it's evident in our conversation. And when I say conversation, I mean our conduct. And it's also evident in our words and our hopes and our desire. See, we expose ourselves regularly. Because he said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. So where your conversation is, and where your desires are, and the things you like to discuss, and the things that you invest your time in, it shows where your treasure is. It shows what you hold to be valuable. It shows what you trust in. You know what I'm saying? So we were talking about last week. I ain't got no friends and don't care. And I'm talking about people outside of the people that we deal with the word. None. I don't care either. It doesn't bother me at all. Could care less. Who or what has to be lost in order to attain salvation? Because I would rather hold on to who and what comes from Yahuwah than to hold on to what I had before him. What I had before him was useless and worthless. It led to death. That doesn't mean I don't love or care about these people. But to get to where I'm going, things have to be dropped. In Hebrews chapter 12, he tells you, lay aside the weight and the sin that so easily beset us and run the race with patience. We don't sit back and consider the vain thoughts that lodge within us. The fact that we refuse to keep his commandments. And the fact that the people that we choose to keep company with on a day in and day out basis could be the weight that is stopping you from running that race. And you don't want to throw the weight overboard. It's holding you down. You got to sit back and look at it. Your number one desire should be to Yahuwah and no one else. Your loyalty and allegiance should be to Yahuwah and no one else. Not your mama, not your daddy, not your husband, not your sons, not your friends, not nobody. A dude told me that was selfish thinking. Because I'm saying my desire is to deliver my soul first. My desire is not to the people. As regards of let me unify and do this with the people. That's second. My number one desire first is to deliver my soul. Period. That's the first number one desire is to deliver my soul. Everything else flows out of that. You're supposed to be selfish in regards to that. Because it's your soul and your judgment. You have to be selfish when it comes to that. Because he ain't going to look at it that, well, you sacrificed your salvation to help these people out. You're going to burn with them. So if an individual feel like you putting yourself above the nation, see, I don't even see how an individual would look at that. You're putting yourself above the people in that. Because your soul has to be saved. So your number one loyalty has to be to Yahuwah and not the people. Then after that, your loyalty is to those who fear Alahym. If you are more loyal to sinners than those who fear Alahym, you have a problem. And you might want to check yourself. Because you should never be more loyal to those who are of the world than those who are of the household of faith. That is not what our Alahym has ever taught or has ever condoned. Because he went off on, we looked at that, he went off on Jehoshaphat by helping those who hate Yah. You have to consider that. 2 Corinthians 7:1. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and ruach, perfecting kadoshness in the fear of Alahym. How do we perfect kadoshness in the fear of Alahym? Well, let's see in Galatians chapter 2 by verse 17 and then 2 Timothy chapter 3. If you want to cleanse yourself from all the filthiness of your flesh and your ruach, it takes the word to do so. After that, matter of fact, let's look at Hebrews chapter 10 first. I got so much information, so I want to make sure we set the stage real good. And if you pay attention, y'all willing, you'll see that all of the stuff we're looking at will tie in together over the span of 3 days. Over the span of 3 days. It's definitely going to take 3 days. 10 and 19. Hebrews 10 and 19. And then we'll get Galatians chapter 2. 2 Timothy 3 and then finish Romans 8 and then come back to Deuteronomy 32 because it's 8:15, so I still got 30 minutes at the bare minimum. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into Kadosh by the blood of Yahushua, by a new and living way, which he have consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh. And having a high priest over the house of Alahym, listen to what he's about to tell you. Let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Since we look at having our hearts washed from an evil conscience, We need to look at Ezekiel 36 and 22 for that. We need to look at that. Because that's the whole key thing is our conscience, our minds are evil. Remember, he said he made man to be upright, and man sought out many inventions. Man sought out many different purposes outside of the will of Alahym. And we continue to do this. See, when we look at the Greek word for conscience in this particular verse in Hebrews, it's just sitting here telling you that it's the mind, the mind or the perception of a person. Which takes us back to how long wash your heart from wickedness. How do you wash your heart from wickedness? You wash it with the word. And that's what we don't want to do. Because we don't want to feel like we wicked. But as I told you before, and I will consistently and constantly tell you this, as long as Yahuwah's breath is within my lungs, that having a heart devoid of faith is desperately wicked in the eyesight of Yahuwah. It's more wicked. And honestly, a heart of unbelief is just abominable as being a homosexual. It's just as abominable. It's just as abominable as being an idolater. It's just as evil. Nobody like to talk about that, but everybody want to scream these laws, and don't nobody believe in Yah at all. Let's look at verse 25. Dang, it was another verse on my head for this, and it just slipped out. Y'all willing to return. Then I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness. From all your idols will I cleanse you. And look what he said he'll do. A new heart also will I give you, and a new ruach will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my ruach within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I have gave to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I will be your Alahym, and I also save you from all your uncleanness, and I will call for the corn and will increase it, and lay no famine upon you. So this man say he's going to cleanse you from your sins. You know, that was the blood of Mashiach that did that, as we just read in Hebrews chapter 10. That's what did it. So you've been, that's what it was. 2 Corinthians chapter 6. No, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 7. We'll get to Galatians 2 eventually. 6 and 9 actually. You just sit back and look at it. Some of y'all ain't been washed. And when I say I'm not necessarily talking to whomever, but this period. Because we have to talk about in general, anybody who listening, anybody who watch it later, who watch it now. Some of us have not been washed. And this is why the vain thoughts lodge within us. This is why the wicked plans are still within our hearts. Because we haven't allowed our consciences to be sprinkled with pure water. Cleanse you. No spots, no blemishes. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Alahym? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Alahym. And such were some of you, but ye were washed, but you are sanctified, but you are justified in the name of the Master Yahushua and by the Ruach of our Alahym. So how are you washed? Let's sit back and look at it. Acts chapter 22. But it is not just the act of being immersed that washed you. But look at he says, son, you were washed. Let's look at the statement, what he tell Paul. Let's look at what he tell Paul, y'all. Let's just look at what he tell Paul. Let's look at Acts chapter 22, verse 12. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the Torah, having a good report of all the Yahudim which dwelt there, came unto me and stood and said unto me, Brother Saul, receive thy sight. In the same hour I looked up upon him. And he said, The Alahym of our fathers have chosen thee, that thou should know his will, and see that just one, and should hear the voice of his mouth. For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard. And now why tarry thou? Arise and be immersed, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of Yahuwah. He told him to be immersed and wash away his sins. Well, how does his sins be washed away? Number one, we know that, okay, you get immersed, that's symbolic of you dying and your sins being put away. But let's look at something that Peter said in the first epistle of Peter. I want to say, chapter 3. If it ain't chapter 3, it's chapter 2. Let me see. Let's look at what Peter stated on that. There we go. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 18. Because remember, he said you need to have your conscience sprinkled with pure water, that evil conscience. Your body's washed. Remember, he said cleansing ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and ruach. Remember, his work is perfect. So the sacrifice, and remember, if we're looking at the immersion, this is talking about his death. Remember, he said, "This is my blood, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." This man's death and his blood was for the purpose of making you whole, making you complete, making you sound, making you upright, removing your spots and blemishes. Remember, he told you, wash you, make you clean. Cease from doing evil from before my eyes. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. For Mashiach also have once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to Alahym, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Ruach. And again, this is also talking about if he's our rock, and he's made in his way, and his work is perfect. Remember, it was Yahushua's desire to die because he needed his head. If you look in Luke chapter 23, he say, "Father, in thy hands I commend my Ruach." He said, "I didn't come to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me." And his will was for me to die. See, Yahushua knew that it was his desire to be to his father and to accomplish his will and to sacrifice himself, because that's what his father sent him to do. It behooved him to suffer and to enter into his esteem. He said it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he could be a faithful and merciful high priest, and pertaining to the things of the reconciliation of the people. So it was Yahushua's desire to die in order to redeem the people back to Alahym. You have to understand, it was his desire to be nailed to that stake. He had already prepared his heart to stretch out his hands towards his Alahym, to remove the blemishing spots from the people and to remove wickedness from your tabernacles. Because how is wickedness moved from this tabernacle or this fleshly temple of which you dwell in and currently reside? It's allowing the word to come in. It's allowing it to purge those thoughts out of your consciousness, going along to what we were talking about last week, about how the thought of foolishness is sin. It's the purpose and the vice of folly which lodges in men's heart, which causes them to get outside the will of Alahym. He say, by which also he went and preached unto the Ruachs in prison, which sometimes were disobedient, when once the long suffering Alahym waited in the days of Noah, for the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water. The like figure whereunto even immersion doth now also save us, not putting away the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience towards Alahym by the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach. The answer of a good conscience. That good conscience or thought process would be the simple fact, because the good words of Yahuwah would be resting in your inward parts, and you would have washed yourself from the wicked plans of iniquity, which takes us back to Jeremiah 4:14. How long will vain thoughts lodge within thee? Wash thy heart from wickedness, that you might be saved. That's why he said, why are you waiting? Wash away your sins so you may be saved. Wash the wickedness out of your heart so you can be saved. This ain't difficult. He ain't asking for us to do much. Galatians chapter 2. It only seemed like much because we want to hold on to what we want to hold on to. We don't want to let it go. 2 and 18. Well, 17 is cool. Galatians 2 and 17. But if we seek to be justified by Mashiach, we are ourselves are found sinners. Is therefore Mashiach the minister of sin? Alahym forbid. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. For I through the Torah am dead to the Torah, that I might live unto Alahym. I am crucified with Mashiach. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Mashiach live in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Alahym, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not frustrate the favor of Alahym, for if righteousness come by the Torah, then Mashiach is dead in vain. See, and this man is sitting here telling you that now he's looking at, and also he said this in another place in Corinthians and in Philippians, that our desire should be to him that to him who died and rose again, that we should live for him. So your desire should be to your head, because you need him. He said, without me you can do nothing. He said, abide in me and I in you. Because for without me you can do nothing. And that's our problem. If we want to do everything without abiding in Yahuwah. So therefore our plans will come to naught every single solitary time. 2 Timothy 3 and about verse 13. But when you go to talking like that, oh, you sound weak, you sound like a Christian, and all this other stuff that niggas like to say, because they don't really believe in Yah. At the end of the day, Paul made a statement in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 that he said he esteemed in his infirmities, that the power of Alahym may rest upon him, because his favor or his gift or his loving kindness is made perfect through weakness. Because as men, let me tell you something, men are taught not to be weak. And we can't be weak because you the head, you the provider, you the protector of the household. So when we see certain situations that where men of Alahym have to be transformed into a low and weaker state, dudes want to resist that because they feel like they have to exert their masculinity. And I understand, you know what I'm saying? So in doing that, it causes you not to allow your trust to be with Yahuwah. And therefore you seek to deliver and save yourself, and not allowing that perfect work to be worked in you, that you may be without blemish or spot. Because Tamaim is also the same word that was used when it described Jacob as being a plain man dwelling in tents. So this was a perfect man. He had no blemish in him. I mean, this was an upright and just man. This was a righteous man. His heart was right. So them niggas miss that. When you look at your fathers, when you look at Abraham, when you look at Isaac, and when you look at Jacob, their hearts were right and steadfast with the living Alahym. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. That's who they served, and their hearts were clean and right with him. And we not understanding that if we emulate these men, we are emulating Yahushua, because Yahushua worked out the works that these men worked. So that the end we're emulating Yahuwah. Because I had this conversation earlier. I ain't never want to emulate another man. I didn't want to follow how to be another man. But you want to emulate your Alahym, though. That's the only person you should want to copy. It's the only person you should want to follow. That's the only person you should want to be like. Because to be like him is to attain eternal salvation and a place and seat at his table, at his feast, in his kingdom, that you may receive a crown of life at his hand and a white robe of righteousness and palms in your hands. Don't nobody want that, though. Niggas want an earthly kingdom of which they can set themselves or their cronies up to be the heads, and not let Yahuwah set it up, and let his name be esteemed, and let his reign be in the earth, that all men may know that he has created all things, and that Yahushua is his Mashiach and his son, and is the ruler amongst men. Nevertheless, 2 Timothy 3 and 12. Yea, all that will live godly in Yahushua HaMashiach shall suffer persecution. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But continue thou in the things which thou hast learned, and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them, and that from a child thou hast known the Kadesh scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Yahushua HaMashiach. All scripture is given by inspiration of Alahym, and is profitable for doctrine, and for reproof, and for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Alahym may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. We know from John chapter 12, verse 48 and verse 49, that Mashiach say his father gave him a commandment, what he should say and what he should do. He rebuked him, he corrected him, he instructed him in righteousness, and that allowed Yahushua to be made perfect. Therefore, that allowed us to be made perfect through him. Let's continue with Romans chapter 8. Let's continue with that. We just set in a little stage, setting it up. Got to set it up first. Y'all will on the Shabbat is when we get into the meat of the matter. But we got to set it up. Then we can at least get to John 16 to see how his ways of judgment, to at least put that plate on the table. We'll read verse 2 again in Romans 8. For the Torah, the Ruach of life, and Yahushua HaMashiach have made me free from the Torah of sin and death. For what the Torah could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, Alahym sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the Torah might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. So his work is perfect. The Ruach of Alahym is perfect. It's without blemish, it's without spot. It's complete, it's sound, and it's whole. And that's what he walked at. He said, if we walk in the Ruach, we ought to live in the Ruach. If we're going to walk by the word, we ought to live by the word. But a lot of people don't want to live by the word. They're selective in how they want to live it, or they're selective on when they want to apply it. And that's just a total lack of consistency, which shows a total lack of reliability. John chapter 16. Let's look at that judgment. 16 and 7. Ooh, boy, that junk look like, when that nail come off, that junk's gonna look disgusting. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth, is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. And when he is come, he will reprove the world of sin, and of righteousness, and of judgment. Of sin, because they believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and you see me no more. Of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. So now when you say his ways are judgment, that's what it said in Deuteronomy 32. His ways are judgment. His ways are judgment. And way we know is Darak. That's the way to the highest that covers sins. And he said of judgment because the prince of this world is judged. Hebrews 2 and 14, and then 1 John chapter 3 and verse 7. So when we look at his ways of judgment, he has to execute a sentence. And because his work is perfect, and there's no iniquity in him, and just and right is he, he's able to judge the adversary. And therefore, through that judgment, he's able to condemn sinful flesh in the flesh, to therefore bring life from a Torah that allowed death because of your disobedience to it, your violations of it. Forasmuch then as children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. So because of this, because he took part in the same, he was able to judge and condemn the devil by taking the power back. So because his work was perfect, and because he prepared his heart and stretched out his hands and was able to cleanse our hearts from an evil conscience, because his heart was cleansed by the same word to be perfect and sound and complete and whole without spot or blemish, that allows us to be able to do the same. That death is removed from us by his name, because we were washed and sanctified by it, by putting the way of sin as he put away sin by his body. 1 John 3 and 7. Oh, I got to pull that up on my phone because Abigail snatched that page out of the book. Little children, let no man deceive you. He that do righteousness is righteous, even as he is righteous. He that commits sin is of the devil, for the devil sinned from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of Alahym was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. See, the Son of Alahym was manifested to execute judgment on that work. So we see how his work is perfect, so that his way could be judgment, so that you can enter in to be closer to Alahym. The why you the desire needs to be to the rock. Deuteronomy 32. I would say 8:35. I got time to fit a little bit more in. We've already got about an hour. Hold on. Hello? Hello?
Get it there.
Yeah. Deuteronomy 32. Verse 4 again. He is the rock. His work is perfect, and his ways are judgment. A Alahym of truth, and without iniquity, and right is he. So again, we're going to look at truth and see the Hebrew word for truth in this verse. because he said he's an Alahym of truth. And it's the Amunah, which you already know. Firmness, fidelity, steadfastness, stability, faith, faithful. He's an Alahym of faith. See, first thing people scream, see, the law is the truth. The law is firmness, it's stability, it's faithful. So he's an Alahym of faith. So let's go ahead and read Hebrews 11 then. This is what your rock is made out of. Your rock is made out of perfect soundness, wholeness, without spot and blemish. Your rock is ways or judgment. So we'll pull judgment up just on general principle because we didn't read it, but y'all should know what it is. It's the mishpat, but we'll get it anyway. When you know the mishpat, that's the right things that are right, justice, right, rectitude, execution of judgment, sentence or decision. Proper fitting measure, manner of plan, lawful, discretion, things that are right. His ways are the things that are right. You have to look at this is what your rock is made out of. Then he says that your rock is also an Alahym of faith. So when we read Hebrews 11, which you all know what it says, but we're going to read it anyway. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of Alahym, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith Abel offered unto Alahym a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, Alahym testifying of his gifts. And by it he being dead yet speak. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because Alahym translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony that he pleased Alahym. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that come to Alahym must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And we know from seek, that is the darash or the bakash, which is the sacrifice to enter in through the house of the door. He is a rewarder to anybody who diligently will sacrifice themselves to enter into his house. Period. And that take us back to preparing your heart to him and stretching your hands out. And you got to sit back and look at it. Your Alahym is an Alahym of faith, not an Alahym of laws, not an Alahym of judgments and statutes, though right and just are his judgments, statutes, and laws. But he's an Alahym of faith. He's an Alahym of firmness. He's an Alahym of stability. And it makes sense that when you sit back and you look in the construct of the natural sense of a woman prefers a man who is stable and who is firm, because he's reliable, he's trustworthy, he's consistent. You have to sit back and look at that. And if we are his wife, then why wouldn't we want to be built upon that and to lend ourselves to that? 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 18. See, that's our problem. Verse 18, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Because see, that's our problem. See, we don't see people scream that verse in the next chapter, in chapter 5, about us walking by faith and not by sight. But we don't really live that way, because we don't really trust in y'all that way. We got to see it. We got to see it. When we see it, then we'll believe it. When Yahuwah is telling you stuff. So let me show you something. John chapter 14. Just look at a statement Mashiach made before we go back to Deuteronomy 32. Just look at a statement Mashiach made in verse 29. That's all we want. But I'm gonna be nice with it, and I'm gonna read 25. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read 23. Screw it. Listen what he tell you. Yahushua answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. He will dwell with you. He will Levi with you. He will be joined with you, or he will Zebulun with you. He will dwell with you. He that love me not, keep not my sayings, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father which sent me. See, people scream, I love God. No, you don't. You don't keep his sayings, because the just shall live by his faith. Keeping his sayings is not only just keeping the sayings of obeying the commandments, but keeping fast to his promises. Remember, we read that in 2 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 1. Dearly beloved, having these promises. See that? Having these promises, you're going to keep to the promises that he made. And therefore, because you believe, trust, and hope in these promises, even though you see them not, just like your forefathers didn't see the promises come to fruition, you still will cleanse your inward parts. Nevertheless, these things have I spoken unto you, being yet present with you. But the Comforter, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. Shalom I leave with you, my shalom I give unto you. Not as the world give, but give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. You have heard how I said unto you, I go away and come again unto you. If you love me, you will rejoice, because I said, I go unto the Father, for my Father is greater than I. And now I have told you before it come to pass, that when it is come to pass, ye might believe. He said, I'm going to tell it to you before it happened. So when it happened, you might believe. But see, you ought to believe before it even happens. See, he said the same thing in the book of Isaiah, that he'll tell you these things before it happened, because he know you were your forehead was iron sinew, and you were obstinate. You were stubborn, you were rebellious, you were unbelieving. He's telling you this stuff before it even happens. He said, I'm telling you this so you might believe. So he's letting you know. But let's get to Isaiah 46. He is an Alahym of faith. He is justful and upright and just to fulfill every word that he has spoken. In the 55th chapter of Isaiah, he said his word ain't coming back to him void. It will accomplish the thing whereunto he sent it to, and prosper it therewith. Let me make sure that's the right place that I had, because it might be 45. I got to make sure that's the right spot. It's actually 48. It is actually 48. Isaiah 48. My apologies, y'all. Isaiah 48 and 3. I'll read verse 1. Hear ye this, O house of Jacob, which are called by the name of Yasharal, and are come forth out of the waters of Yehuda, which swear by the name of Yahuwah, and make mention of the Alahym of Yasharal, but not in truth, nor in righteousness. Let's see what the word truth is for this verse. Let's just say he say they swear by the name of Yahuwah, but it's not in truth nor in righteousness. Let's see what he means. Let's see what he means when he say not in truth, because he's an Alahym of truth. And wouldn't you know, the word is a mot, and it's the same thing. The firmness, the faithfulness, the reliability, the sureness, testimony and judgment, and things of that nature. Nevertheless, we didn't do it by faith. So we were screaming and swearing in the name of Yahuwah. Yahuwah this, Yahuwah that, Yahuwah this, Yahuwah that. As Yahuwah live, lying. Because we ain't had no faith. Because the word for swear is shavah, and that's to swear to adjure or to take an oath. So we taking oaths and swearing by the name of Yahuwah with a lack of faith. People think that means, but not in the law. No, buddy, not in faith. Which means if it's not in faith, it's definitely not going to be righteous. For they call themselves of the Kadesh city, and stay themselves upon the Alahym of Yasharal. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth, and I showed them, and I did them suddenly, and they came to pass, because I knew that thou art obstinate, and thy neck is iron sinew, and thy brow brass. I have even from the beginning declared it to thee before it came to pass. I showed it to thee, lest thou shouldst say, my idol have done them. My graven image and my molten image have commanded them. Thou hast heard, see all this, and will you not declare it? I have showed new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou did not know them. They are created now and not from the beginning, even before the day when thou heard them not, lest thou shouldst say, behold, I knew them. Yea, thou heard not, yea, thou knew not, yea, from that time that thy ear was not open, for I knew that thou would deal very treacherously, and was called a transgressor from the womb. No strong words. He said, I knew you was wicked. He said, I had to tell you this stuff before it happened, lest you jumped your wicked behind and say, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. That's how you know he's an Alahym of truth. He's an Alahym of faithfulness. Back to Deuteronomy 32, because we finna wrap him. Well, we had to set the stage. Praise y'all for the word. In the name of Yahushua, we had to set the stage. If you want to understand what it means to be built on a rock, I'm going to read verse 4 again. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, Alahym of truth, and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves, their spot is not the spot of his children. They are perverse and crooked. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus requite Yahuwah, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that have bought thee? Have he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old, and consider the years of many generations, and ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Now, he made some strong statements about us right there, but praise Yah for Yahushua and the word. We will hold it right there.